Hey man, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Greetings from y'all from up here, and I wish I was there in some ways because I definitely miss Australia. So think about you all the time. Go to my happy place, like Happy Gilmore. I go to Australia in my happy place.
What's
But
your
it's
what's
good
your
to
favorite
see.
thing about Australia?
Oh man, I think everything. But I definitely have become, so I never really liked the water or the beach, but Australia has definitely made me fall in love with the beach.
I actually agree with you with my hatred of water. But since last time I saw you, I've moved from west of Brisbane City to the coast. So I'm actually living on the
Mm,
Sunshine Coast near Noosa. And
I know where
yeah,
that is.
we've actually been to the beach quite a bit now. So I'm starting to love it. It's really weird. It's having this effect
It
on me.
is. And I love the pace of Australia. I think there's such a calm and it's a little less aggressive than United States. So I feel like I slow down a little bit
Hmm.
and I'm more patient, and life is a little bit different than it is here.
Yeah,
So what
that's
is it like there at the moment?
yeah.
Well, you know what? I think if I were to take the temperature, I think COVID-19 is kind of the temperature of the culture of America. It's a high fever. People are very very concerned. We kind of have a fear-based news society. Even a lot of our churches have a lot of fear kind of in there. So people are afraid. People are very concerned. The job loss. I don't think we've really seen the height of it, but I think people get the sense that this is unprecedented, and we're not just gonna come out of it. It's not an easy fix.
Yeah.
So financially, we just kind of started some of those things, but it's gonna be probably really difficult the next couple of weeks.
Has it
I
changed
hear
the
you.
way for you how you do your usual routines?
Absolutely. Everything has changed,
Yeah.
completely changed. I mean, in 2 weeks, literally everything in my life has changed. The kids are kids when they close the school district. So schools are closed. That changed everything. And it got progressively more stringent in restrictions. So just as of yesterday, the governor, we had states and governors. And so, because in America, the governors of states kind of have their own um, power in the sense that they kind of dictate
Mhm.
certain things versus a federal level. So some states are faster than others on different decisions, but our governor did decide that we're in what's called a shelter in place. So they had a list of essential things that can be open, but everything else is shut. When you think about churches not meeting, when you think about the financial impact of that, uh,
Mm,
and what that means for pastors or employed teachers. So it's a lot. And I think our part of town that we serve is a lower income, high risk neighborhoods. So just the idea of the civil unrest, a lot of the kids that go to the schools, their 2 meals are covered at the school district. So being home for
mm,
a week is devastating
yeah.
financially to a family. So it's
Yeah.
changed. It's changed everything. And I'm sure we'll talk about that from the church perspective. But for me, it has changed everything about what I'm doing and everything.
What kind of reactions are you getting from people in your immediate surroundings? So like your family, your friends, any adverse reactions to this thing? How are people taking it?
Absolutely. You get a couple different groups of people. You get um, the absolute fearful conspiracy theory. I got a couple calls, people saying ahead of time, it's going to be martial law. The government's going to shut you down. Rush to the store. So I'm sure the same thing happened there. I think I read some articles about it. People just raided the stores, just completely emptied shelves. So you have people like that. You have people who are not necessarily used to being together. So that creates another dynamic.
Hmm.
So immediate people, there's some frustration there. Other people are fine. You have some defiance. People just don't care. They're going to do whatever they want to do. But I think it's a mix of I think in some ways people have taken the church for granted. and they realized that. And for other ways, people realized they really weren't as connected as they thought they were.
Mm.
And in general, in life, they're not really that connected. So yeah, it's been a mix, but
Yeah,
for the most part, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm actually noticing in my area, like people dropping off quite a bit from church. I'm hearing stories of people just saying things like, well, 6 weeks off, I'm out of here, and not even responding to any phone calls or anything. So it's really changing the whole dynamic of even how the church is relating to each other. Are you seeing like any changes in your church community? I mean, like how much you're willing to share, of course, but like,
Oh
yeah.
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 Well, it's been interesting. So we celebrated in January a year of our launch. So what we did just about 2 years ago was relaunch our church. We relaunched it. We pretty much kind of started from scratch with the same people, but a completely different concept, I guess.
Mhm.
And so we celebrated a year of that. And we have a really strong vision. God's been really good. We actually, since we've launched, we've doubled the church.
Well,
Like the church literally doubled. So a lot of the things that we say about being a church for the community, we have this phrase that church doesn't start when you get here, it starts when you leave. And we kind of sensed that, content-based church is going to go away. Like the middleman, I have a good friend that we were talking about this, a pastor, you have the high end, like, let's say like a high end vehicle, and you have a super low end vehicle. Like all the middle stuff, is just, it's going away. I mean, here, like Sears, Kmart, all of these kind of stores, for example, that would pretty much be mimics of the really good stuff.
Mhm.
They're kind of getting taken out. So that's happening really across the board. You see Netflix, for example, just taking out movie theaters or just taking off primetime TV. So in the church, I think the content-based church format is going to go away. And there's a sense of authentic relationship and authentic cause that people want. So we've been recognizing that and knowing that we're not going to put everything into the content of the church service. So our experience, like the experience of our church is what people like. So we were all excited about that. We have a vision and we say a lot of stuff. And this really put us to the test. It really puts you to the test. And to say, are you still church even though you can't meet?
That's interesting.
Right? Like how much, go ahead.
No, just tangibly, like what does it look like before this happened for that change? Like you said, you've relaunched, you're doing things a bit different. So content type church is one. The alternative is experience, I guess is the word you've used. Is that a good articulation of it?
Well, what we had to figure out what people were coming to church for. And what they were coming to church for were people. That's what we were good at, is what we call sticky situations, right? Where if you come to, it wasn't so much the service. The service is good, but it's before the service. It's after the service. It's the movie nights. It's hanging out. Like that's what's sticky. So so the growth that we've had hasn't been just they're new people that don't know God. All these people that our church is done with have been new people to faith, like brand new. These aren't like other church people coming, but they've been friends of people. So it isn't like our super sexy marketing or just random people coming off the street. It's people feel comfortable bringing people. So when they come, they literally feel like family. There's a feeling that we noticed that it was just kind of how we were with people that they really liked. So when we said that experience is what people want. They want that family experience. And we built everything else around that. So basically the way we have people serve on teams. So we have 4 major teams, and we have 4 teams, and then we have people serve on a team, and everything from like our small groups, we launched that, and that went very well. Because usually Adventist church small groups don't work because they're just Bible studies. But our small group, this is our fourth time doing it, and we finally hit a really good sweet spot to where even our small groups are from 6:30 to 7 on Wednesdays. And what we did is we had it at the church. So we have three at the church, one in another city, but they're there. And man, the small group's over and it takes another half an hour to get people to leave. Like nobody leaves. They're just talking, having fun. And it's just that. And so that's what we changed, is really what we was marginal before has become how we gauge how we're doing. So attendance giving isn't really our measure. It's how many people are in a small group, how many people are serving on a team, and if they're getting that freedom. So that was the challenge is, well, how do you do that and move online? How do you move online with that experience? And we're figuring it out, and we're actually really excited about. So it's been a good thing. This interruption, this reset has actually put us to the test. Because you can be like, we're a friendly, loving church. And then when something like this happened, it's like, who's that guy that's kind of balding that wears the red shirt, with the two kids? And you're like, you don't even know his name. And he's been going to church like 8 years and nobody knows the guy's name. That's what puts you to the test. Because what's going to happen is people are going to realize I'm not connected to anybody. And I think a lot of people, to assume that everybody's just going to come rushing back to church is a wrong assumption. I think people are going to say, I don't need this. And people obviously didn't need me, and they obviously didn't know who I was. So this moment right here of how we care for people is really crucial. And I think we could probably talk about some things that we are going to do if you want, up to make sure that we're doing what we said we believed in, bringing hope to the city, and really checking us to make sure that we're being authentic to that.
So what I'm hearing here is that community is becoming very, very important, particularly during this time of crisis. I found personally for myself that, it's like you're saying, it's that time before church and time that after church, you actually get to know someone that you normally maybe wouldn't interact with if it was just the service. So how are you guys finding that right now? How are you finding maintaining that kind of those small groups and those interactions, those more interpersonal relationships during this time?
Good. So I think it goes back to kind of a philosophy, first of all, that we talk about, and my wife kind of came up with it, but she talks about being relationship rich, and that, your health and your spirituality is in the currency of your relationship and who's with you and who's not with you. So when church if you're not really doing life with anybody in your church, then you're wealthy in whatever relationship that you have, that it is a daily, weekly relationship. So when people allow themselves, or even forced to be in that, I'm relationship rich in people that attend the same church or are spiritually, at least in the same community, then the life happens every day with them. So what we noticed and what we saw was that people were doing more life with each other outside of church. Church was just the time when they saw themselves together, maybe, but most people have already seen each other 2 or 3 times a week. So this is only our third weekend not having church. So this will be our third weekend. So what we've done is we had a meeting this week with our leaders, and we decided we're going to bring we're going to bring everything we do on a Sabbath week, on a weekend service, and during the week online. So we're not changing who we are or what we do. We're just going to bring it online. So for example, one thing we're doing is we're having some hangouts, because we know people love to hang out before church and people love to hang out after. So we got really kicked into our live stream. We weren't ready for it, but we are now pushed into it. And we're going to have the Zoom hangout before and after. So all we have is someone hosted, and we'll get as many people as the church that the whole thing can hold like 100 people, and just let them talk to each other online.
Is that even possible?
We'll find out this week.
100 people. I just imagine so many voices just talking over each other.
Yeah, I mean, but what's fun and crazy about that? Because you can scroll and see.
I like it.
And then we're going to do shout outs. So we've had people send a video from home.
Yep.
Hey, we miss you, we love you. And then we're going to use the church platform, the social media platform, and put their greetings on that. So we're just trying to find a way to where we can hang out. So everybody's using Zoom. I just had they had a worship Zoom tonight. They weren't talking about anything, just laughing. Some guys like, we need to watch a movie together. I can stream it, screen share, and we could all watch it. So we have brought whatever we do, everything from, we're actually even so the way our cycle works is the first weekend of the month, we have what's called Next Steps, which is kind of like an intro to the church, and they get to know their spiritual gifts. So we do that every first Sabbath. We do baptism every second Sabbath. And we do family dinner, which is like the same kind of what small groups is, but we have different people host. So we have a couple rooms, and instead of a big potluck, because I hate potluck, but that's not why I don't have it, but I don't like potluck. But instead of potlucks, we have cooked dinners, and people invite people to their room. And so, and then we do outreach on the last week. So we're going to try family dinner on Zoom. So we're really going to tell them to set up a camera and eat from home and put it on the TV, and it'll be crazy. Bunch of people talking over each other, but we'll see what happens. But we've told ourselves, like, we have to communicate more. If you call somebody once a week, call them every day, text every day, because people are starting to realize, especially here in America, like they're learning that they really do need touch. They really need deep. They're learning what that feels like to be isolated, and people are hungry for that. So we've been trying to increase that communication as much as possible.
I've noticed in my area, and it's just coming more it's across the board. The temptation has really been to connect through not this like what you're talking about, but through content. And so I'm seeing a lot of live streams popping up. And interestingly, all at the same time. It's always at the 11 a.m. on a Saturday morning. And once that time is gone, an hour, it just disappears. And so that's good. But what you're saying, ramp it up, like more contact, more time just hanging out, seeing each other, and it's more messy, really. That's what I kind of like about your Zoom hangout time. Like, I can just imagine 100 people talking all over each other, and I'm being really courteous, trying to make sure Nathan gets time in to ask questions and stuff. But I'm like, I can imagine everybody just piling in on each other.
Yeah, y'all, you'll see I'll let you know how it goes. You can follow up with me. But yeah, you're right. I think what this is doing, it's putting to the test the culture of your church. It's putting that to the test. If you are comfortable and satisfied with, and I'm not trying to be judgmental to anybody, but if you're comfortable with just watching the service online, then that's probably what you were doing the whole time at church. If you don't feel that you missed something, if you don't just want to get in your car, just drive by and just look in. Like, I'll tell you, as a pastor, I am dying. I can't even think about being in my house on Saturday. I can't even think about it. Like, I have to just go by there. I mean, I just, for me. So if you don't miss anything, it's like, that's just it. So it's putting it to the test. Like, what was church for me? And so I think some churches are just content. That's what they want to do. That's what they are. But we know that that's not sustainable, and it's not what people really, that's not what we have. Isn't what people need is something different than that.
Yeah. I'm wondering.
Go Jacob. Oh, you want me to go? Okay. I was just going to ask, how do you see church moving forward in the future? With all of this happening, there are a lot of people speculating about just the way we interact and how things are going to change in the future. Are we going to have church the same way? Are things going to change for the better or for the worse? What is your prognosis as a pastor?
I definitely think church is going to be completely different in the future. I don't know but I don't think different is new or innovative.
Okay.
In other words, the church is ancient. I mean, it's been around a long time. And even when you think about church, we may be thinking about the Western version of church, right? But other parts of the world, this is their reality. They can't meet. They can't meet. So this is what church is for them all the time. And so it doesn't go away. It actually thrives. So the way we do church in the Western world will definitely be completely different. And I think we're on to what we realize, that relationship is going to be what sustains people long term. Because if you're stuck somewhere at 3 a.m, and let's just say everything falls apart, and I just fall apart and I'm just passed out drunk on the side of the road at 3 a.m, I know who I'm going to call. Mm-hmm. And I know who's going to come get me, right? And I know who's going to pick me up and is not going to judge me, or is going to be there for me and keep that secret. And I think that's what people need, and I don't even know they freedom. Can you get free from this? Can you get over this? And can your life improve? So that'll be the test of the church. Not how savvy you were, not how awesome your live stream was, but did I actually grow there, or did I actually contribute? That'll be the question. I think people will be very critical of the church. I think some people in the church will go completely this way, and others will go that way. But I don't think it's going to be the same. I think in our Adventist structure, the potential of the financial fallout of this is going to be pretty crazy. I was on my pastoral Zoom today, and half the pastors I heard was, well, because everybody's losing their retirement, so that means some pastor who thought about retiring is probably going to stay another 10 years. And then I just heard on the call, well, I can't do this. My members aren't this, and that's all I heard was what they can't do. And very few people are talking about what they can do. And I think that's going to be the pressure is, can you sustain whatever crisis is next?
Like stepping up, do you mean?
Yeah, this is not going to, we're not going back to normal. This is not, this is over. COVID's over. Yeah, a global pandemic. It's just, that's the end of it. We're never going to see that again. No, we're going to see something else. And I don't think church is going to be the same, or at least I don't think it should be.
Mm-hmm. So with doing such a big change for yourself over the last couple of years, if a church is now thinking about shifting at this moment to something new and to move away from what they're comfortable with to a really meaningful relationship, a really meaningful community, would there be any direction you could give to us to do that?
Yeah, I would. I think what's worked for us, and I think it's a good place to start, and this comes from John Carter's book on leadership. This massive book here. This is an organizational leadership book. It's massive. You read this?
No, I just like that you had it ready there and you just like pulled it out.
Well, I just keep it down here, yeah. But the first step in change at an organizational level is to establish a sense of urgency. That was the first step for us. And the reality was our church was going to die. It just was. We weren't reaching our community. We had a very specific demographic that wasn't there, that we weren't reaching, and they weren't ever going to come back. And I had to come to the realization that I hated my church. And I had to literally say that one day, ask the pastor.
What was the catalyst? What was the turning point for that to happen?
Me?
For you to realize this?
To be honest, I had to I'll tell you what it was. It was the first time I went to Australia. That was what happened, because the first time I went was the camp meeting, and I remember this was at big camp, Brisbane, and I remember the expectations were kind of low because they hadn't had, it wasn't, the young adult tent was building or whatever. And I remember the last night we had about 1,700 people in there, and I was just thinking, I saw it just grow. And I was just thinking, wow. And I remember the invitation from the first part was like over my pay grade. It was like, why you invite me? And I just saw the way God used me. And I should say, I got to participate with what he did. And I came back like, okay, why did this happen here? And why doesn't this happen at home?
Okay.
Right? Like,
great question.
Same person. What's happening here that it's not happening here? And the reality was I had to be honest with myself. If I wasn't the pastor and I lived here, I wouldn't be sure if I'd come here. And I don't like the church. I don't like the people. I don't like being here. I don't like everything about it. I didn't like it. And I remember telling a pastor friend of mine, and he said, well, you know what you should do? I was like, what? Because I just spilled my guts. I'm like, I can't stand this. And he's like, you know what you should do? He got real serious. He's like, you know what you should do? I was like, what? He's like, talk to the pastor. He's like, and I start laughing. He's like, you're the pastor. And I had to pray about that. Like, this is my responsibility, and I have the privilege to lead that. So that sense of urgency was the truth. If we do this, we're going to die. That's just, there's no other answer. Yeah. And when they saw that, they had to decide to change. So to answer your question a little bit better, or I don't know if they answered it, but.
Oh, you answered it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to know, like, what was the turning point for that? That's really interesting. Yeah.
But then with that urgency.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I was basically asking earlier, like, how did you lead that change?
Right.
So right. Sense of urgency. But then what? What came?
So that's what I was going to give you a parable. So when you fall in love with somebody and you say, I'm in love with this person. That if you make that decision, you will do anything you need to do to maintain that relationship. Like if you're, so to answer that, it's not about, I don't like to answer that with strategy because it's really a decision. Like I'm not telling people to change your outfit. Because if you're still you can get a complete makeover and still be a horrible mate, right? So it's more of a decision. The decision that we made was, here's the question. So let me give you the question. The question was, who is this church for? We established the sense of urgency. The next question was, who is the church for? Us or the community? That was the question we wrestled with for about a year. I didn't have an answer. It was an open question. Who is this for? Is this for us or is it for the community?
Yep.
When we answered, it's for the community. Okay. Then we looked at the incarnational model of Jesus, right? Jesus came into the earth went from, God to humanity or whatever. So if as a human, he's going to look like his mom. He's going to look like his cousins. He's going to be eating the food that they eat. He's going to have the traditions, whatever high school he went to, whatever basketball team, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he was spirit and God, but he looked like his family. He didn't just look like nobody that ever existed.
He wasn't some special random guy that had this all worked out.
No, he looked like his family.
An average guy, yeah.
So that's what we said. We're the church. We're God or the representative of God in our community. So we got to look like our community. If it's for them, then we have to share that DNA. We have to share what's common. And we found out that the time we had to worship wasn't the best time. We found out that how long our service wasn't good. We found out that all those things. So once we solved that question, then it changed. So the church is not us. We're not trying to get people in the church. We're trying to get our people in the church. So we're not trying to get the community. So the church is my community. So I have 85,000 members. That's my church. I have 85,000 members. So I'm not trying to get them into the building. I'm trying to get the people in the building in the church. And that's the direction we took it. So we have 85,000 people in our church. They just don't know it.
So this is a pretty mind-blowing idea to some people, that church is not a building, right?
Well, you need a building.
You need a building, but what I'm hearing you say is church is the people, right?
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, Jesus needed a body, but he wasn't just a body. He was the Son of God on here for a mission that sacrificed his body for our salvation. So we do need a church. We do need somewhere to be in our, but the point of it is to be in our community. Like our church is literally in our community, like literally in the middle of it. Yeah. We're not an outskirts kind of suburb, we're not, because part of the problem was we had 85% people commuting. And when you're commuting in, you've lost a lot.
Well, I think, man, I could talk to you for hours, and you might have to be ready to do a follow-up where we actually sit down for like 3 hours and you just answer all my questions. But for now, thank you so much for making the time to talk to us and to share your wisdom with us. Maybe a quick fun question. Have you heard about our toilet paper crisis in Australia?
I have not. Are you really having a crisis?
Apparently, yeah, that we can't buy toilet paper. Do you have that same problem?
I don't, but I can show you how to solve it if you give me 10 seconds.
I'm concerned, but yeah.
Funny joke.
Let's do it. I hope he doesn't bring back wet wipes.
Or a leaf.
I don't know what it could be. It should be interesting.
Retention is
okay.
Important.
This is how you save toilet paper.
Okay. You're going to save Australia.
You get a piece of paper like this size. You poke a little hole in it.
Yeah.
And you go like this. I know that's, my father-in-law says that joke, so I couldn't resist.
This might just be the solution we've been looking for. I'm just saying.
So you really don't have any toilet? Like you don't have any?
No, yeah, people think that it's going to save them because everyone's bulking up on toilet paper. Everyone's holding.
Oh, yeah.
Hoarders mode.
That's ridiculous. I don't get the toilet paper thing, but.
Well, I think you've solved the problem, so we're all good.
One sheet at a time.
You're the man, Terrance.
Oh man.
Well, we're definitely praying for the church over there in Pasco, and keep praying for us over here in Toowoomba and Sunshine Coast, and hopefully we'll get to catch up soon again.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, good times. We'll see you around.
Okay. God bless.